Well, hello. Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Cassandra Hard-Laurie and I'm the Curator and Visual Arts Coordinator at Willoughby City Council. I'm here with my colleague Miriam Foley and our guest artist speakers Robin Kennedy and Seong Cho. Both our guests are local North Shore based artists who contribute to our vibrant arts community here on the North Shore. Miriam is the curatorial assistant at Council. She and myself represent Council's visual arts team. We look after Art Space on the Concourse and Incinerator Art Space. But during lockdown, we've been delivering a series of art Zoom talks whilst the art spaces actually weren't open. But we're excited to announce that our art spaces will actually be opening next week. So please check our website to see our upcoming program. Lots of great exhibitions about to start. Our guest artists Robin and Seong were meant to have physical exhibitions on right now, but unfortunately they have not been able to run due to the COVID lockdown because their starting dates of the exhibition was actually before this week. However, thanks to Pivot to Digital, we're still able to hold this artist talk on Zoom, and it's able to still be part of the first ever digital version of Sydney Craft Week. So it's this year it's Sydney Craft Week Digital Festival. We'll be rescheduling Robin and Seong's exhibitions at Art Space on the Concourse and Incinerator Art Space. But in the meantime, I'm sure this talk's going to get you really interested to visit their exhibitions when they do run next year. I recommend switching to full screen to better see the artworks that Robin and Seong will show you on screen. You're most welcome to use the Zoom chat function. A few people have sent a few messages to say hello already. And if you've got questions for Robin and Seong, you can ask them at any time during the talk, but Miriam has got to do an interview with Robin and Seong. So those questions that you might want to ask, Miriam will ask Robin and Seong at the end, but you can send them anytime. If we get a lot of them, we may not get to all of them, but we'll certainly, if we don't get to all of them, we'll certainly try to answer them by email later after this session. We are recording this session, so we will be able to provide you a link to the recording once it's uploaded to our visual arts web pages. And now I will hand over to you, Miriam, who's going to lead the conversation with Robin and Seong.
Thanks. As she mentioned, I'm here today with local artists Robin Kennedy and Seong Cho, who will discuss their processes and the inspiration, inspiration behind the artworks for their solo exhibitions. Robin's show, Embellished, explores her enduring passion to embellish and beautify artworks, objects, and wearable art. The exhibition includes artworks crafted from recycled contemporary textiles, aged cloths, papers from Asia, and photographic images. Seong Cho is a printmaker, and her exhibition, Terrestrial Symphony, presents the interconnection of the four worldly elements in a collection of visual allegorical narratives that juxtapose the meditative state of the natural world against the cacophony of human society. As Cassandra mentioned, both exhibitions have been postponed until next year due to COVID-19 and the lockdown, but hopefully today will give you a little taste and provide a bit of insight into their work and their methods. So I'll dive in with my first question, which is for both Robin and Seong. What's the purpose or the goal of your work? Seong, if you'd like to get us started and answer first.
Okay, hi, I'm Seong Cho. I'm the Korean-born Sydney-based printmaker. You mentioned about the goal of my work. Okay, I don't have any particular goal. Mainly, if I really would like to say is, while I'm making the artwork, the process make me, free myself. That's probably my goal. And at the same time, people have, work into my visual work, into my work, and then we can have we can share the same, feeling. Maybe someone can have the moment of the meditative time. That kind of thing is probably my, goal through my art. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Robin, would you like to answer the same question?
Yes, well, I also don't really have a goal, but my art career started really because of sustainability, and so I really want to create art, decorative art and jewellery that repurposes, reuses old materials. So I guess that's the purpose of it. I want to create art that is beautiful. I want to bring more beauty into the world. I want people to enjoy my art. You know, of course, everybody wants people to enjoy their art. You know, it's got to be fun. And so that's really all my art is. It's decorative, it's fun, and I hope it brings pleasure to others.
That's really wonderful. I know sustainability has played an important role in your work. Can you tell us how it's become an important part of your career as an artist?
Yes, well, I just said that it actually started my career. So sustainability is really how I started, and it wasn't really a choice. I was working in the early 90s in the interior design industry and as a CAD operator. So I wasn't a designer or a creative person as such. And they were clearing out their samples library. The designers were all in there working one weekend when I was in there, and they were cleaning out their samples library. So they had all these beautiful textiles and timber veneers and glass samples and you name it, all the things they use in the interior design industry. But there was a lot of discontinued stock, which they normally would do an annual clean out and they'd take it to the tip, which I was quite horrified about. So I couldn't believe that this was just going to get thrown out. And I just said, look, can I take some of it? So I filled up all of these boxes of mostly textiles, but a lot of other bits and pieces, timber veneers and the like. And I thought, well, I'll do something with them. I didn't really know what I was going to do with them because I, hadn't really studied anything to do with art. So I thought maybe I'll make some, soft furnishings or some fashion items. I didn't really know. Anyway, so I started initially with some small miniature, I'll call them miniature artworks, because they were like miniature artworks, but they went on to handmade cards, because handmade cards in the early 90s were very popular. And I did that for a number of years and sold them through galleries and specialty shops and the like. And I just loved it. But I wasn't really making much dent in that big, that big part of materials that I'd collected. And I also had started collecting, I love old worn textiles, hand-stitched textiles, textiles from Japan. And I was on a trip to India in 1996, and I was in a place called Jaisalmer in western Rajasthan, and they were selling all of these gorgeous textiles that were all hand-stitched, gold and silver thread work and mirror work, and they were vintage. They told me at that time they were about 80 years old. You never know whether what they're telling you is real, but they're definitely very old, and they're not. I don't think that was untrue, but so I brought some along to show you some, and I love them because they're so aged and that. So I'll just show you a few little samples. I'm not sure if you can see them, but I've still got many left. I bought quite a few of them, about 50 pieces at the beginning of this trip around the world. So I was traveling, so you can sort of see maybe the detail on them. So I still use those today because I bought about 50 pieces, and they traveled the world with me in the bottom of my backpack because I didn't want to take the chance of losing them. So that was really the start. So it was the interior design textiles that and other materials that I'd grabbed when I was working in the interior design industry. And I still get interior design industry textiles, and I also get gifts from people. People give me old clothing, old scarves. I use some of my old clothing, which I'll show some things later where I've used an old shirt in some of my artworks. And I also love Japanese textiles. I love the old Japanese obis and kimonos and temple mats, and I use those in a lot of my works as well. So it's a mixture of all of those old textiles, and I also have contemporary pieces as well, but pieces that I've purchased. So that's really was the start of my my career in art and my venture into sustainability, I guess.
Well, I think sometimes yeah, like it was clearly a bit of an unplanned and unexpected thing. And I think sometimes the greatest art can come from the unexpected. And I also think sustainability is something that's particularly important nowadays. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
So Siong, the subject matter explored in your more recent work reflects on the natural world and humanity's complex relationship with it. Could you explain this a bit more?
Okay, I usually get the inspiration from the natural world and human experience, and then how I can expressing the this one in a visual form. And then as we know, we have a two side, different side of the humanity. We love nature, for example, and at the same time we destroying and shocking the natural our world. So that is the kind of issue. So that especially that our current climate crisis at front of our mind as well. And we can see how much the relationship between humans and the nature is a state of the tension at the moment. So I want to highlight this in my way through my artwork. Yeah, that is it. And especially we have a good example last past 2 years. We just perpetually have a big disasters, bushfires, followed by the flood. And then, this coronavirus pandemic, and especially I had a really horrible sort of experience in Europe at the time when it was happened in Europe more serious than Australia at the time. And then all this kind of, highlight humanity's complex and relationship with the natural world and how humanity has such a control over the nature. But at the same time, we are so powerless to control this nature either. So like environmental disaster and the pandemic, this kind of thing. So it is the complex. And art is not only produced by the artist, an artist, also at the same time, we are all affected by our surround. So that is some sort of issue I would like to put it in and allegorically with my artwork, and then maybe have some sort of message in there, I think. What do you think? That is my feeling. That's definitely conflict between the our two sides of the activities. You know what I mean? So that's what we have to more emptying, and we should issue our work and thinking about it. And I metaphorically put it in image of my work. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that definitely
is responded to your question, the complex relationship between humanity and our lives. Yeah. So that's the main, basically, I questioning, in my way to the lot of experience, and then also nature gives a lot of inspiration. And then I explored the philosophical and, existential question and through this all events and then what happens and all this complex. That is mainly my work. And then you already introduced about our 4 elements of our earth. That is at the moment is not in a nicely in order, isn't it? It's the kind of all chaotic, making a really ugly harmony there. Capricorn, you mentioned about it. So that's why I put it in my exhibition title was the Terrestrial Symphony. That symphony should be the music is because music is a very big part of my life as well. And the symphony should be, we should have a more, harmonious, rhythm or whatever music we have to listen. At the moment, we having a really unpleasant, ugliest kind of probably rhythm we are listening. So somehow we have to rethinking about it and how to go with this, current uneasy time. That's all. Yes.
No, I think that's definitely true. And I think a lot of people can relate to that right now. It's been a very chaotic 2 years in particular. And
absolutely.
struggle.
Yeah. So my Terrestrial Symphony, when the song works, deal with the theme is the water and earth and the wind and the fire, all that kind of thing is probably the motif of my work. And so that is all what is the upside down during the, this all chaos, how we can find the, wisely enough to find a little bit of some, order. That sort of thing.
Yeah, thank you. Robin, could you tell us about what type of works you are creating now? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Robin?
Yes, I would love to tell you about my the works I'm creating now. Well, of course, I've been pretty busy creating for the embellished exhibition that was due to open on the 6th of October and now postponed till next year. So I'll show you a couple of those works because I am, the more time you've got, the more you create. So I will continue adding to that, and then I will decide, what I am going to put into the exhibition finally. So some will come in, some won't. So I was talking earlier about the beautiful textiles that I bought when I was in Rajasthan, and also I've picked up textiles in Turkey and Uzbekistan, and of course Japanese textiles. But I made a lot of, when I first started creating works, I was doing a lot of figurative works using those textiles, and I still make them. They're still very popular. So I'm going to put a couple of, maybe 2, 3 of those into the embellished exhibition. So this is just one example. I'm not sure how well it comes up, but you can see the mirrored textile piece. I think you can see it shining in here. That's all the textile from Rajasthan. I've got textiles from Uzbekistan and Turkey. And then I've even got some of the old through here in the skirt area, some of the original interior textiles that I got from that interior design firm when they were throwing them out. So that's the style of figure I make. I make a lot of Japanese themed ones. I'm not trying to copy any particular style, but it just brings all these different elements together, and I just want to use those gorgeous textiles and show them off and make something beautiful. So there's that style that I've been working on. I've also, which I haven't decided whether these are finished yet, but that's always the case when you're doing art, you're never sure whether they're finished. So these 2 small ikebana sort of style artworks where I've used recycled textiles and photography. Yes, I'm not sure how well that comes up on the screen. And they're all embellished with metallic thread, which I can talk about that later. And so there's that style. I may, they may go into a larger work, yet I'm not sure whether they'll be standalone. So it's that sort of thing. And then this is a work, again, using old textiles. It's some very old textiles, some old Japanese ledger paper. There's the timber veneers in here that I also picked up in the early 90s. So I'm still using that because I had sheets of it. And I use, this is non-tarnishing jewelry wire that I've used around the moon, and this is acrylic painting. So there's a whole lot of different things in that. So they're just a few of my smaller works. I've created larger works which are a bit too hard to show in here. So that's sort of what I've been working on for the embellished exhibition. And then because that's been put on hold, I've now switched over back to my jewelry making, which is something I've been doing in more recent years because I love jewelry and I love making things. And I've got lots of beautiful textiles. So I use all the same techniques that I've used in creating my art in the textiles. So the same gluing techniques, and everything I do is very similar to what I use in my artwork. But of course, there's a lot more in jewelry making that you've got to think about. You've got to think of the structure of it. How is it going to hold up? It's got to be worn. It's not just sitting behind glass. So it's challenging, you know, and to come up with something unique. So I have been making some jewelry pieces as well, and some will go into the exhibition, some larger pieces that I'm still, you know, I'm not sure which ones are going to go in and whether I'll add to them. But these are just a couple of small examples of, I don't know how well you'll see that. I have to bring that in. So it's made all on textile. It's got old Japanese ledger paper. It's got the silver jewelry wire. And the textile that I've used in here is from an old shirt that I used to have that I love the textile in. And I use that in a lot. And an old necklace that I had is being pulled apart because I don't wear it anymore. And little bits of that have gone into it. I've got old Japanese ledger paper in there that's been varnished. And so there's different things, and a similar style one, but in brighter colours. So that's on sort of some of the jewelry pieces that I'm making. Of course, lots of earrings and things like that. And
muted.
that's weird. Just did that automatically. Maybe it's trying to tell me I've said enough.
No, keep going.
The only other thing I was going to say is that Hazelhurst Gallery Shop approached me about making some paper jewellery to coincide with their paper exhibition that also was postponed. And so that's something new for me, and I've been exploring that, and that's been a lot of fun. I've got old papers that I can use, and I bought some new ones. I love Japanese papers. So that's pretty much what I've been working on.
Okay, thank you. That's really interesting. You seem to have a real passion for surface decoration. Could you tell us more about this?
Oh, yes. As if I haven't said enough. Oh, I won't be too long on this one. So, yes, I love surface decoration. So my surface decoration started because, well, I love detail. I love detail in nature. I love detail in decorative objects, detail, full stop. And so when I first started making those handmade cards years ago, I don't know where it started, but I decided to start using metallic threads to beautify them, and to finish off the edges of the textiles. So I would glue this metallic thread work down. I'd draw very, very fine glue lines, and then you would lay the metallic thread onto that. A lot of people think I've stitched everything, but it's actually all my materials are glued. So, and I also love, so metallic thread is probably my main embellishment, and I use that a lot, all coloured threads. I also use a lot of small tiny beads and sequins, feathers, the little bits of timber veneer I use as well. So this is just one work that's got quite a lot of sparkle in it. It's got a lot of metallic thread work in it, and it's got some sequins, and some of the fabric is quite sparkly as well. I love sparkle. And this was a flower that I photographed. It's been, manipulated in Photoshop, printed and embellished again with metallic threads. And I've done something similar. I've got some other works over here quickly to show you. Sorry if I'm boring everybody. So that's again, photography and textiles in this. So this is a piece of recycled textile. I think that's a new piece of textile, and then mainly photography in here, and it's embellished throughout with a lot of metallic threads. So that's all photography over textile, and a similar one, just a little bit larger, again with photography and textiles. So that's that's it. I love embellishment. It's meditative, really. When you've done your design, and then you're just going to sit down and you're going to do the embellishment. Well, I can do that for hours. I love it, and it takes hours. So my husband actually, who's a dentist, I'll just quickly show you these because I use them all the time. A lot of people ask me what I use. So my favourite instrument, he would often say to me, could you use this instrument? Could you use that instrument? So I tried them all out, and I've got a drawer full of old dental instruments, which I keep thinking I'll make something out of that one day as well. But anyway, this is a flat plastic. People who go to the dentist would know what that is for scraping, and that's what I use all the time for doing the metallic thread work. I draw very fine glue lines with it. Sometimes I'll use thread to actually lay the glue with. So I'll put glue onto the end of a thread and I will draw that around all of the imagery that I want to embellish, or use this. And then this is used to tap it in. The dental tweezers are perfect because of the shape of them. They're great for picking up threads and thread and materials and stuff. And then this is something I use sometimes in my art, but mostly in my jewelry. It's called it's a rubber dam punch. And it punches holes. And so I use that all the time in my jewelry to get holes into things which you need for various reasons. So that's just a little, I've said enough, I think.
Yeah, I think your passion really comes through in your work, and we can see from those examples you've just shown us just how detailed your work can be with all of these different elements and materials working together.
Yes.
Siong, Robin mentioned that she finds creating her work to be quite meditative. Do you find the same thing when you're making your prints?
Yeah, absolutely. Because my work is meditative practice, I may say, and especially I'm using a main medium is the wood block print. There's a lot of carving is involved. So that time is the best time having a self-reflection. I don't know if it's a correct English way of expression. So self-reflection, and then enter the, meditative state, listening music, and then through that journey, all that goes with us. So it's definitely. So usually my work is the abstract expression, and then very intercreative. So therefore, already I mentioned when you're asking for my goal. So it's mainly for myself, actually, making this work. No, particularly I'm targeting for a market or any, particular viewer or any, whatever, gaining something, it's absolutely would like to be, be free myself through this way. That's why I mentioned about I'm keep questioning myself philosophically and existential kind of, questions. That's all. So it's definitely very meditative, and the meditation is good. Sometimes using the word contemplation or something like that. And so through all that sort of thing, I'm not particularly very good at writing, like literature writing. I can writing a poem or any novel or anything like that. So this my visual art is my pictorial poem with my visual language. Yeah, that's what I would like to say about my work. Yeah, that's all.
Could you tell us explain the more practical aspects of your printmaking process?
Printmaking process. So it's already I mentioned about there are so many even different medium in printmaking, but my main medium is the wood block print. So wood block is actually started from Eastern Asia, but probably my ancestor. Their purpose is not making a artwork. They purpose to carving the book, like a Buddhist, Bible kind of thing. It's one temple. If you go, there is 80,000, panels there to print. They or keep it. And so therefore, that is the one thing homage to my, own culture. And then that even wood block printmaker, we call it relief. Relief printmaker has a different way to, preparing their, artwork. But my case is I making some my own brushes, like natural leaves or sticks and whatever, that kind of thing. If I show something, it's the pine tree leaves, and then a little bit of harder. So it depends on what sort of image I want to making. I can making a very big like that, or can be small diameter like that. Just I attaching with the natural little twigs, something like this. Even I'm using my traditional, my ancestors' brush, they using just scrubbing the big, pot, this sort of thing I can use. It depends on my image. I just making this brush, and then I draw straight away on my wood with the sumi ink. That's also come from my, Asian culture. So calligraphical expression I went through with abstract, expression, which abstract art probably started early 20th century in a Western country. So I may say I am practicing Western culture, Western art, and the Eastern, art, traditional art is combining with it, making my own contemporary art, what I'm talking. So, and then I draw, and then I usually carving. It depends on the work, what I would like to do. Sometimes involved with one plate, some is the two. So usually, if, for example, if I wanted to making a 3-color plate to making a complete one work, I usually put on the 3 plate one at a time, and then each dividing, plate I draw all together, and then I know how they will be overlapping later. You understand? And then so it takes a very long. Just a few days ago, I was thinking about a big forest with a very big, long, very, very long, much longer than behind what you see, about 2 panels, alongside each other. And the last spot, I would like to put in some sort of, spot on a darker hue kind of, color, thinking about it. It took a whole month I carved, so each one took about 15 days. So it's a very long time. So already mentioned about the meditative processing. So that's what I enjoy the most through this work process. Once it is done, I washed all the plate because the sumi ink has some starch in it, so ink couldn't go on it. So therefore, I all washed, scrubbed, and then all dried and all preparing, and then preparing the paper. I use paper mostly Korean traditionally made, mulberry paper that culture is still continue more than 600 years. Their descendants still making it. I import from Korea as well. And I printing on it, and then I'm using still a traditional method, mainly with the barren, different size of the barren, and probably I should have showed to you. And also you can use the press. It depends on the image. I rarely using a press. Some images are needed to be on a very thick Western paper. So I usually using a BFK or Hanamura paper, and then I just hiring the studio. We can use Wallaby Art Center or whatever, Lenko, whatever. They both have very good facilities. And then you pressing it, and color-wise, I using ink, mostly the water-based one. Some inks, the colors come from extract from flowers and plants. I importing from the Japan and also my country, Korea as well. It's beautifully done, and they need some knowledge to how to control with them. It's beautifully, once I put it on, the color is resonated on the paper. It's strange, isn't it? And also even just normal ink, I'm mainly using the water-based one for environmental reason. Really, sometimes I really need a rich and a shiny kind of quality ink. It has to be effect on it. I use the soybean oil based ink I'm using it. So that sort of thing is going on. So that is basically the practice. And gardening is very good for exercise. So I recommend it to everybody. you can making thinking and making art, and also carving through your meditative time, and also exercising with gardening. And my wood usually are quite a big size. It's a quite a vigorous, energy, physical, sort of work involved. I don't know how long can I, continue. I'm getting older. Last night, actually, I printed one, and then we didn't work it out very well. But I mean, I was so exhausted, so I have 1 hour rest, and then came down and cleaned up all the rollers and then everything. And this morning, actually, I washed there was already dark. So this morning outside in my small garden, I washed my plate. It's all very vigorous, required big, physical energy as well. So it's good, mentally, physically, very healthy. So I'm so glad I am, engaging with this medium, and then I'm still able to do it. You know what I mean? So it's one of lucky things to do. Yeah.
Well, I think, you might have just inspired a few of our viewers to start printmaking. Well, if we're all, stuck inside, it sounds like, it's a good way to keep your mind occupied and to experience new things.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is good. Yeah, I think I'm very lucky. And then I actually studied applied art, and then deal with this medium and that medium as well. And also came to Australia, I had another advanced diploma for a sculpture. The sculpture is a little bit of, more space and energy, and cost is more. It still is a lot of money I have to spend. But I mean, sculpture will. I think sculpture is going to be not very suitable for my aging time. So I just really focus on printmaking now, about 10 years now.
Robin, could you tell me about your favorite medium?
Well, it would have to be textiles. There's what I love about textiles is there's just so many qualities. There's such variety in it. A lot of people make their own textiles, and I admire people who do that. But I'm just too passionate about all the textiles that are already out there, whether they're the old textiles or contemporary, new textiles. So I love all the patterns. I love the sheens, the translucency that you'll get. There's so many things you can do with it. And I particularly, love mixing both sides of a textile. So often I love to look at the back of the textiles. And when I pull apart sometimes an old obi, I love it. I open it up and it's got a beautiful pattern on the back. And some of the more recent obis have got all of the, thread work still there, which I can cut those off by still maintaining the front textile. I can cut the backs off and I can use all the gold threads from the back of the obi, which is just gorgeous. And to the left of Robin, I really like I just saw a little message pop up there, sorry, yes. So, and these are just a few of my Japanese textiles here, which I bought, and there's a shop up in French's Forest that I really love, called Edo Arts, and they have antique textiles from Japan, and which would be obis, kimonos. They've got temple mats, they've got rolls of textiles, they have textile bins, and you can go a bit berserk up there. They also have beautiful antique Japanese furniture and collectibles. So that's a really good resource if anybody is looking for Japanese textiles. So I've probably got more than I can ever use in a lifetime now. So I don't buy many now. So I love my Japanese textiles, and I love to mix sometimes the front and the back of textiles because they often will work because they've got the same colours in them, but the patterning's different. In fact, the reverse of textiles can often be really beautiful, really unusual. They're more abstract. And I love using that and combining them. But the only negative about textiles using textiles is, and because I glue them, is the challenge to get enough glue down to adhere to the watercolour paper or the canvas, whatever I'm building on, without putting big blotches of glue, letting it soak through. And some textiles are really forgiving. They're either thick enough that the glue wouldn't come through and yet it holds it, or really fine textiles. Silks are really difficult to work with. They will mark really easily. So sometimes I'll use a technique that I call the edge technique, where I'll use, again, the flat plastic, and I'll just do a very, very fine glue line around the edge of the textile. And so I'm not doing what's called a full surface technique. So that's my passion for textiles, you know, but it has some challenges. So there's, you know, lots of different ways of presenting textiles and working with them. And I use them in my jewellery as well. So can't get any better than that.
Yeah, I think textiles can be quite versatile, which is something we see in your work in particular. And as a viewer, there's something also about the materiality that's just so inviting. So yeah, can't wait to see your work in the real.
Well, I've got hundreds of them, and you can see some of the drawers behind me. I think I've got about 150 drawers of textiles, and yes, I wonder how I'm ever going to use them. So I have to think about when I'm who will inherit all my beautiful textiles, because I don't want them going to landfill.
I'm sure you'll find something.
I hope so.
I even sometimes dyed, you know, silk and, you know, printing on like a very traditional Korean hem. And last time I had a chance to get some, you know, that not ripened, that's still green, you know, persimmon. I get it and making a juice of it. I'm making 10 bottles of it. And then I sometimes just splash on my paper or sometimes on any cotton. It is also very interesting. For example, I even dye paper and then I printing on very small example. I just a little bit display in the background if anybody can see it. This is the dyeing, and this mulberry paper, natural paper is like a cotton as well. So not only the textile, we still can making this and that and creating it, even all, you know. Last time I dyed one with the purple onion. Some reason I made a big, you know, whatever frittata, and then I used about 10, you know, purple onion, and I all kept it. And then I just squashing in, and then I folding it and put in some vinegar ice steam. Then I take it up, beautiful scarf with this turn up. You know what I'm talking? So it's all fun, and then we create something very privileged being a human. I think that's my answer. I think that's why I like creativity. That is the only we are given this privilege. Creativity is only given to the human. And then we should be nicer to the nature, and then we have a balance. That's it. Make a sense to you, Miriam? Did I interrupt you?
No, I think that was, yeah, a really good addition. And it's interesting because you both have very diverse practices and approaches.
How it is relating craft work, you know, making a print. Also print can making a little card as well to the. This is my card I made this year to, you know, just one example, not a great work, but just for one example for, you know, card. This is a card. People appreciate sometimes handmade, you know, card as well. It's a part of a craft as well. So we can develop with the printing to the not has to be a pure art or, you know, visual art. We can making as a craft thing. Also, I don't have it here, but I mean, last exhibition, somebody, probably a few people saw, I printed in a big roll of the ham, and the rami is a little bit finer than ham. And then I draw on with the calligraphy, particularly Cassandra love it. I just hanging like installation. So it's all fun. So while we are doing it, you know, we had fun. So I always, you know, happy with the processing. Doesn't matter the result. Yeah, so that's what I would like to add at this stage. Okay, you go on for the next question, Miriam.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think we're getting a little bit close to the end of the session, so I'm going to skip ahead to my last question, which is for the both of you. Just what advice would you both give to artists just starting out? Robin, would you like to answer first?
Well, yes, I say stay true to the passion, you know, continue, you know, do things that you really enjoy, not necessarily for what you think is going to be selling. So have fun, you know, and don't worry about the sales. You can get worried about the sales, and it, you know, if people aren't buying your work, it's disheartening for sure. But remember the pleasure you get creating it, and hopefully the pleasure that people will get when they do have one of your works. If you can have a second source of income, another career, that's always helpful. I worked in IT, so that really helped me. I worked 3 days a week for many years in IT. So my art was definitely my main interest, and at least I didn't have to worry so much. I was earning an income to be able to pay the bills. Not always possible, but you know, if possible, try and have some other source of income as well, because it's yeah, there's a lot of people out there making art.
That's very true, and I'm sure people will appreciate your insight. Seong, would you like to answer?
That's good advice, Robin. But I'm not quite sure I'm in the position to give advice to the others. Only I'm thinking, already mentioned about my meditative work. It is only my interpretation. If at the same time anybody can feel the, you know, similar way, I don't want to say my work is this way, my work is that way. I don't want to impose to my viewer. If people have, you know, we can share the same sense of feeling, they working into the field of their meditative work, and that helps them their own interpretation, take themselves to their own way to the meditative, you know, time. And while you are making your work, I don't know, don't think much. That's my advice. Just follow your heart and what your heart says. You know, once somebody says, I'm going to do this first, and then I splash this one, and then I put on this one, something like that, I said, oh my God, totally different, you know, my way of thinking. Just follow your heart and whatever. I tutoring, you know, some studies to the many years with the students, not only the art, just, you know, go for it. Once you choose it, just go for it with all your might of passion. Just follow your heart. That's my advice, I may say. And Miriam, you said that this is the last question, so I would like to add in it. So, you know, pleased to be part of this Sydney Craft, you know, Festival 2021, and hopefully our show will be happen next year sometime, and then we physically meet and then we can discuss more. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'd all really enjoy that. And yeah, thank you both for your insights today. I think I'll now move on to the questions from our Zoom chat. Seong, we have a question for you. How do you attach the brush twig to the handles? I think they want to know, yeah, how do you make your brushes? Like, how do you attach the twigs?
Right. All right, brush, very easy to things. I just show you very little. You can use any kind of stick. I go for a work quite a lot, and I just pick it up the appropriate little sticks. Sometimes some can be very straight. This kind of straight, but I like this way to the holding it, and then whatever I use quite a lot of old, you know, palm tree little stems. They has quite a nice fibers in it. I soaking into the water and then making it a little bit softer and then taking off all the mucuses. Or you can use the bamboo shoot as well, very soft brush. And then I holding it what sort of size, because once I did thinking about one idea for artwork, what sort of thickness of, you know, drawing wanted to go. and then I'm making a little decision, and then I put them together around these twigs. And then nowadays we have so many rubber band. Whenever we bought vegetables, everything I all collecting. I never throw it away. I all collecting. So inside there, the rubber band is very strong. So therefore, there is holding it very well. So inside has one little rubber band, and then use this one. We are cooking that thread, you know, when holding the beef or something like that. So I holding it because I don't like to see any synthetic one. Probably you guys felt that I'm very traditional, old, ancient kind of thing. And then I just, I know we are living in a very technical, technological kind of world we are living. But I mean, as much as I can, I would like to, you know, view with some natural one, traditional one, that sort of thing. And then it's holding it. So that's it. And then, I don't know, some people I am making very easily. So anybody wants to, I can show you when I'm having an exhibition, I can have a demonstration. Is that enough explanation, or can I go through again?
Yes, no, I think that was excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, we have another question for you, Seong. What is the material mentioned? What is the material you mentioned that is lighter than Rami?
What is that?
I might be pronouncing it incorrectly. There's a material that you use that's lighter than RAMIE. Does that help?
Rami. Okay. Okay. Before, you know, all this synthetic, you know, textile is invented, our ancestors used all, you know, silk and the cottons and that kind of thing. Rami is a kind of plant. And everybody knows the ham, and I found in Western, you know, society, everybody knows the ham. Ham is a little bit of, I should have prepared. I have all the example there. Little bit of harder and thicker, and Rami is the much finer fiber, and probably a little bit rich people. And as you know, in Korea, we also had the, you know, caste system, upper class and low class, and the really low class as well. So it's expensive. It's a very, very fine, almost like, how can I say? It's a different the silk. It's definitely the natural plant one. It's a very fine one. If anyone came to my last exhibition at the art space, there was a hanging. Next time I show you, this is the Rami, yeah, RAMIE. That is another fiber. Nowadays, not many people producing it. I think the tradition is finishing by now. I was lucky enough to have one roll because my mom has some sort of, you know, tradition. Whenever she produces one child, she would appropriate, you know, roles to the each child's portion. And when they get married, she making a, you know, bride and groom's, you know, traditional costume. But unfortunately, I didn't marry it, so therefore I had that role, and then I just, you know, nostalgic to my country, my mom, my culture. So I used the last roll, I drew with my swimming ink, and I had the installation last exhibition. Okay, so hopefully we have all the chance to see that material if anybody interested in. I'm not quite sure when Cassandra will allow me having an exhibition next year, but when I have exhibition, I will bring them in the venue, and then if anybody interested, I will show you. Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Did that answer? Okay.
I think so. Yes. Yes. I think. Yeah. That's person's written back and said they understand now. So thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, fabric. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, we're pretty much out of time, so I should wrap up now. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you to Robin and Seong for being part of this. I think we're all really looking forward to your exhibitions being rescheduled for next year so that we can see your work in person. Before we go, I should mention that we have another artist talk scheduled for next Friday, the 22nd of October, where I will be in conversation with artist Kathy Shug. So thanks again, and I will now hand you back to Cassandra.
Miriam, Robin and Seong, that was really wonderful. I really enjoyed that. I did just have a really quick question for you, Robin. I was just curious to know whether you are interested in donations of beautiful fabric at all. And is that something that, you know, if someone had some gorgeous fabric they were thinking of, you know, no, they don't want to keep anymore, but they don't want to throw it in the bin, is that something they could get in contact with you about?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, I know I've got so many, but I can never resist more gorgeous textiles. Some people want to give me textile and ask me to create something from that textile. You know, they may have been gifted it for somebody, from somebody, or they just want to give it to me, you know. Yes, yes.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. If anyone is interested in doing that, you can actually, we'll send a link to actually Robin's postponed exhibition page. It'll stay on site until we've got the new dates, but that's actually got Robin's contact details on. So if you've kind of got a gorgeous piece of fabric and you think, I can actually see Robin doing something with that, I'm sure she wouldn't mind at all if you get into contact with her. But unfortunately now we've got to wrap up. And once again, thank you so much, Robin and Seong. And thank you, Miriam, too, for doing such a great job of leading the Zoom talks. Miriam, she's been an absolute amazing because you've really led the series of Zoom talks that we've done during lockdown. So well done you. And the last thing I just want to say is we're going to send out an email following the talk today, which will actually have a link to the recording so that if you want to watch it again or send it on to anyone else you think that might be interested. We'll also give you a link if you want to join our e-news, which is our monthly e-newsletter that lets you know what exhibitions are on. You might already be on that newsletter, but if you're not, yeah, you might be keen to sign up and find out what else is going on with Willoughby Visual Arts. And it'll also, just a reminder, our art spaces are opening next week, 20th of October, Art Space on the Concourse and Incinerator Art Space, and we're really, yeah, looking forward to welcoming people back. But so hopefully we'll either see you there or see you on Zoom next week at 12:30. So thanks everyone for coming. See you again soon.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.